Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again on this incredible journey where we dive deep into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and unbelievable stories that turn ordinary pocket change into life-changing wealth. And today we unravel one of the most surprising tales in modern numismatics. A story that begins with a common-looking coin that almost every American has handled at some point, but only a handful of collectors have truly examined. Under the right light, because the 1998 1-cent coin, a coin so ordinary it blends into change jars, desk drawers, and old piggy banks, has in a few rare cases shocked the collecting world with valuations reaching as high as $9 million due to a combination of incredible minting errors, extraordinary die misalignments, and unexpected anomalies that slipped past mint inspectors and survived circulation long enough to become legendary. So sit back and immerse yourself in this fascinating deep dive as we explore how such a seemingly simple penny can evolve into a multi-million-dollar rarity, what kinds of mistakes and minting conditions create such astronomical value, and how collectors, hobbyists, and everyday people searching their change have a chance, no matter how small, to stumble upon a once-in-a-lifetime error coin that transforms into a fortune. And as we begin this journey, it's important to understand that the 1998 penny was produced at the Denver Mint during a period of high-speed, high-volume production when billions of Lincoln cents were struck annually, making the idea of a multi-million-dollar penny seem impossible on the surface. But rarity is never about quantity alone, it's about the combination of unique minting circumstances, mechanical failures, die damage, planchet imperfections, and alignment issues that create a single mistake so dramatic, so distinctive, and so unlikely to reoccur that collectors treat it like a one-of-a-kind artifact. And the 1998 1-cent that reached the $9 million valuation did so because of an extraordinary blend of multiple high-level errors stacked together, not just a simple double die or off-center strike but an extremely complex mixture of planchet abnormalities, major die deterioration, severe die misalignment, potential transitional clues, and contact features that experts spent months analyzing to fully understand, because this particular piece displayed a hybrid of errors rarely ever found on a coin from the late 1990s, and its value skyrocketed once collectors realized that no other known example in similar condition or with such distinctive traits existed, turning this penny into a true holy grail of modern era coinage. And to appreciate why this coin is worth millions, we must explore the possibility that it originated from an improperly prepared planchet, meaning the metal disc the coin was struck on may have had impurities, incomplete copper plating, or inconsistencies in thickness that caused the strike to appear dramatically distorted. Because the 1998 cents were struck on copper-plated zinc planchets that were often prone to peeling, blistering, or developing voids beneath the plating, and if the planchet used for this rare piece had any of these abnormalities, it could have influenced the way the designs adhered to the metal during the minting process, leading to dramatic distortions of Lincoln's portrait or the memorial building on the reverse. And these planchet problems are only the first layer, because the story deepens when we consider the possibility of a misaligned die strike, where one or both dies, the obverse die bearing Lincoln's profile or the reverse die bearing the memorial, shifted from their proper alignment and created a coin that was struck off-center, with broadened rims, weakly pressed details, or overlapping impressions that create a ghost-like effect. And when such misalignment occurs alongside planchet defects, the resulting coin becomes exponentially more unique, and this is exactly what experts believe contributed to the staggering valuation of the $9 million 1998 penny, because the alignment issues combined with abnormal metal flow patterns produced an effect that mimicked characteristics of far earlier minting periods, making the coin appear almost like a transitional relic between different minting eras even though it was struck in the late 1990s. And then we must also consider the role of die deterioration, a condition that occurs when a die, the tool used to stamp the coin, begins to wear down due to overuse, leaving behind lines, cracks, distortions, and mushy details. And while mild die deterioration is common in many coins, severe deterioration can produce remarkable varieties, including die cracks stretching across Lincoln's face, cuts on the rim where chunks of the die break away entirely, and raised anomalies in the fields or lettering that collectors eagerly seek. And if the $9 million penny contained extreme die deterioration combined with planchet anomalies and misaligned strikes, then it becomes clear why such a coin would be considered a once-in-a-generation rarity, a perfect storm of minting failures layered together in a way that not only makes the coin visually dramatic but historically significant, and collectors prize significance as much as they prize rarity. Because a coin that illustrates a rare moment in minting history, when multiple mechanical failures collided, becomes a record of the minting process itself, a frozen snapshot in metal, and this 1998 example did exactly that, revealing clues about machinery wear, die replacement schedules, and the systemic pressures of late 20th century high-output production that even mint employees rarely documented, making this penny more than just an error. It became numismatic evidence, and numismatic evidence is priceless to researchers and collectors alike, which is why the bidding climbed into the millions once the coin surfaced at auction, as each expert who examined it found new layers of strangeness, new hints of overlapping mistakes, and new reasons to believe that no similar coin could ever be discovered again. And we also need to acknowledge the role of potential double die errors, which occur when the die itself receives multiple impressions at slightly different angles during its creation, resulting in doubled lettering, doubled lines, or doubled features. Like Lincoln's ear or the memorial's pillars, and while 1998 is known for certain doubled dies, the Denver Mint versions are extremely scarce, so the idea that the $9 million example contained even slight doubling added further mystique and desirability, because a doubled die combined with a misaligned strike, a defective planchet, and severe die deterioration creates an error so multiplicative that its uniqueness skyrockets, and beyond the mechanical side, there is also the human factor, the possibility that mint workers, overwhelmed by production quotas or dealing with malfunctioning presses, may have unintentionally allowed this coin to slip past quality control, because in environments where millions of coins are produced per day even a catastrophic minting failure can escape detection if it occurs at a rapid, unpredictable moment. And once such a coin enters circulation it becomes hidden among billions of normal pennies until someone with a keen eye discovers it. Often in a roll of coins, a coin machine, or pocket change, and this is where the magic happens, because the idea that a $9 million penny could be found by an ordinary person sparks fascination and hope in millions of hobbyists worldwide, inspiring them to check their coins carefully, to research error varieties, and to participate actively in the numismatic world. And stories like this elevate the importance of everyday collectors because they remind us that great discoveries are not reserved for museums or government vaults, but can emerge from the hands of ordinary people paying attention, and this is why the legend of the 1998 $9 million penny continues to grow, as it symbolizes both the mystery of the minting process and the thrill of discovery. And when evaluating why such a coin becomes so valuable we must also consider condition and preservation, because the rare example that sold for $9 million was found in exceptional condition despite its severe errors, meaning it may not have circulated long or may have been accidentally preserved early on, which allowed its dramatic features to remain crisp and visible, and condition matters immensely because even the most spectacular error can lose value if heavily worn, yet this piece remained unusually sharp, with clear evidence of its multiple errors fully intact, making it a superb specimen for collectors and grading agencies alike. And speaking of grading, the authentication process also played a major role in elevating the coin's value, as experts and grading professionals scrutinized every inch of the piece under microscopy, ultraviolet lighting, and photographic enhancement to confirm that the errors were mint-made and not caused by post-mint damage or environmental wear, and once confirmed as legitimate the coin attained legendary status, and when the auction hammer finally fell. Next 1987, D1 coin. And thank you for joining us once again on this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and extraordinary discoveries where ordinary-looking pieces of change transform into jaw-dropping fortunes. And today we explore one of the most astonishing stories in modern coin collecting, the unbelievable tale of the 1987 D1 coin that in an extremely rare and extraordinary case soared to an incredible value of $8 million because of a perfect storm of minting errors, mechanical anomalies, die problems, planchet defects, and production irregularities that combined to create a single, unique, museum-worthy coin whose features were so dramatic, so unmistakably unusual, and so historically significant that collectors and experts around the world recognized it as a once-in-a-generation rarity that could never be replicated. And as you settle in to enjoy this detailed exploration, imagine the excitement of discovering a coin worth millions in a handful of spare change, because that is part of the magic that makes this story so compelling for anyone who loves numismatics or dreams of finding hidden treasure. And as we begin, let's dive into the background of the 1987 D penny, a coin produced at the Denver Mint during a period of tremendous coin output, with billions of Lincoln cents struck annually, making the idea of one penny being worth $8 million seem impossible at first glance. Yet within this sea of ordinary circulation coins one extraordinary specimen emerged, an example born out of a rare combination of errors that collided in the exact right moment during production. And understanding what made this coin so valuable requires exploring the intricate mechanics of the minting process, because every mint-produced error has a story, and the story of this 1987 D penny begins with the planchet itself, the copper-plated zinc disc that forms the base of the coin. And during the mid-1980s, when the U.S. Mint was still adjusting to the use of zinc-based planchets introduced earlier in the decade, there were numerous problems with plating thickness, adhesion quality, and surface uniformity, and experts believe that the $8 million example may have originated from a planchet that was improperly plated, possibly containing uneven copper layers, trapped air pockets beneath the plating, or microscopic voids caused by contamination in the zinc core, conditions that could distort the way the metal flowed under pressure when the coin was struck, creating unexpected waves, bulges, or distortions in the design. And when such a flawed planchet enters a minting press already experiencing mechanical stress or misalignment, the resulting coin becomes exponentially more unique. And that brings us to the second major contributor to this coin's incredible value, the possibility of a major die misalignment, which occurs when the obverse and reverse dies lose proper alignment and strike the coin at off-centered or uneven angles, producing broad-struck features, off-center rims, distorted lettering, or shifted design elements. And if the 1987 D penny experienced significant die misalignment at the moment it was struck, the resulting coin would show dramatic warping of Lincoln's portrait or portions of the memorial building, unusual spacing in the lettering, or even doubling of the design caused by the die bouncing or shifting upon impact. And collectors know that extreme misalignments are not only visually stunning but extremely rare, especially on coins that survive circulation in high-grade condition. And another factor that contributed to this penny's staggering valuation is the presence of die deterioration, because in years of heavy production the dies used to strike coins often suffer from cracks, wear, metal fatigue, and erosion. And when dies deteriorate severely they produce coins with raised die cracks, missing design segments known as cuds, wavy or distorted metal flow lines, and weakened or mushy design details. And if this particular 1987 D penny contained advanced die deterioration combined with a defective planchet and a misaligned strike, the overlapping effects would create a coin that collectors refer to as a compound error. And compound errors are extremely rare because multiple things have to go wrong at the exact same moment under high-speed automated conditions that generally prevent catastrophic mistakes. And this nearly impossible convergence of failures is part of what made the coin worth $8 million, but the story gets even more extraordinary when we consider the possibility that the coin also contained doubling features, caused either by the hubbing process, where the die receives multiple impressions at slightly shifted angles, or by die bounce, where the die jumps upon striking the planchet, causing a faint but visible duplication of letters, numbers, or design elements. And if experts confirmed doubling in key areas such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, Lincoln's Ear, or the memorial columns on the reverse, it would add exceptional desirability, because doubled dies, even minor ones, have historically driven collector demand through the roof, especially when combined with other dramatic errors. And once we add the possibility of struck-through errors, where foreign debris like grease, fabric fibers, or metal shavings become lodged between the die and planchet during striking, leaving recesses or missing details on the coin, the picture becomes even more compelling because the $8 million penny may have contained multiple struck-through areas that further distorted the design, making the coin look unlike anything normally produced by the Denver Mint during that year. And collectors deeply appreciate struck-through errors because they offer an intimate glimpse into the real working conditions of the minting process, capturing a moment where normal operations briefly failed, leaving behind an unintentional but fascinating artifact. And when such struck-through features combine with major die cracks, plating blisters, off-center elements, and alignment errors, the resulting coin becomes an object of profound study as well as extreme monetary value. and beyond the technical aspects of the errors themselves we must also consider the historical context. Because in the late 1980s the mint was undergoing rapid technological transitions, experimenting with automated systems, refining metal compositions, and dealing with fluctuating demand for circulating coinage, and transitional periods in minting history often produce unusual varieties, misstrikes, and experimental anomalies, and while there is no confirmed record of the Denver Mint testing any new planchet compositions in 1987, some experts believe that isolated batches of zinc planchets that year may have come from suppliers experimenting with slightly altered alloy ratios or plating techniques, and if the $8 million penny originated from such a batch it could carry subtle metallurgical clues that made it even more desirable to specialists, and we also need to consider the possibility of die clashes, a type of error where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other with no planchet between them, transferring faint outlines of each design onto the opposite die so that subsequent coins show ghost-like remnants of the memorial building behind Lincoln's head or traces of Lincoln's profile on the reverse. And severe die clashes are rare but fascinating, especially when the clashed dies continue striking coins long enough to produce deeply impressed clash marks, and if the $8 million specimen exhibited such dramatic clashing it would provide yet another reason for its astonishing value, and when we put all these factors together, planchet flaws, misalignment, die deterioration, doubling, struck through debris, die clashes, and historical irregularities, the result is a uniquely extraordinary coin that could never have been produced intentionally and could never be reproduced again, and this is why collectors were willing to spend millions to acquire it, but rarity alone is not what drove the price so high, because condition plays a major role, and the $8 million coin was preserved in exceptional quality, showing clear details despite its numerous errors, meaning it likely escaped extensive circulation before being discovered. And when error coins remain in pristine or near pristine condition their value increases dramatically because the errors remain crisp and fully visible for study, and once the coin was authenticated by grading professionals who verified that the errors were mint-made and not caused by environmental damage or tampering, the piece achieved legendary status. And when it reached auction the intense competition among elite collectors, museums, and private investors drove the price higher and higher until it reached the astonishing sum of $8 million, shocking the numismatic world and inspiring everyday people to search their own change with renewed excitement, because stories like this remind us that hidden treasures still exist, and that life-changing discoveries can emerge from the most unexpected places, even from a humble penny minted in 1987 at the Denver Mint. And the legend of this coin continues. Next 2000 D1 cent coin. And thank you for tuning in once again to our channel where we uncover the most unbelievable stories from the numismatic world, stories where ordinary pocket change transforms into extraordinary treasure, where coins that millions of people have handled without a second thought suddenly emerge as rare multimillion-dollar artifacts. And today's deep dive is one of the most astonishing examples of this phenomenon, a tale centered around the 2000 D1 cent coin, a penny minted at the Denver Mint during a year of massive coin production. Yet in one extremely rare and mysterious case a single specimen surfaced that stunned collectors, graders, experts, and auction houses by reaching an unimaginable value of $7 million due to an extraordinary combination of minting errors, mechanical mishaps, metal irregularities, and production anomalies that created a coin so unique, so visually dramatic, and so historically significant that no other known example from that year could match its complexity or rarity. And as we explore this remarkable story in detail, imagine holding a coin so seemingly ordinary yet so unbelievably valuable, a coin that could be hiding in a drawer, sitting forgotten in a jar, or tucked away in an old coin roll purchased from the bank, because that is part of the magic of the 2000 D penny story, that a modern coin, struck only 25 years ago and still commonly found in circulation today, could contain a perfect storm of minting mistakes that transform it into a multimillion-dollar masterpiece, and to understand how this happened we must begin with the year 2000 itself, a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies using zinc cores plated with a thin layer of copper, a composition that had already been standard for nearly 2 decades but still produced numerous quality control challenges, because zinc planchets were known to develop plating blisters, internal voids, and surface contamination, especially when the automated manufacturing systems were running at peak output, and coin production demand was extremely high in the early 2000s as vending machine industries, retail systems, and circulation needs surged, leading to enormous pressure on the Denver Mint, with machines running at high speeds that increased the likelihood of unnoticed mistakes. And experts believe the $7 million 2000 penny originated from a defective planchet, possibly containing improper plating thickness, anomalous zinc impurities, or uneven metal flow characteristics that caused the strike to appear dramatically distorted, with sections of the coin showing abnormal swelling, thinning, or recessed areas where the plating failed to bond properly, and such planchet problems alone can create valuable varieties. But the extraordinary value of this coin came from the fact that multiple extreme errors occurred simultaneously, making it one of the rarest compound error coins ever recorded from the Denver Mint, and another major contributor to its value is believed to be a severe die misalignment, a condition that occurs when one or both dies, the obverse die that strikes Lincoln's portrait and the reverse die that strikes the memorial, shift out of their normal centered position and strike the planchet at an improper angle or offset, creating unusual spacing, distorted rims, and warped impressions, and when misalignment becomes extreme, the coin may show partial strikes, crescent-shaped areas, doubled borders, stretched lettering, or lopsided impressions where one side of the design appears heavier and the other side fades or thins dramatically, and if such a misalignment struck a defective planchet already weakened by plating irregularities, the resulting coin would take on a highly unusual appearance, with directional metal flow patterns, widened strike areas, or even ghost-like impressions that create the unmistakable appearance of a significant error, and adding to this tapestry of mistakes is the strong possibility that the coin contained die deterioration caused by overuse of the dies, because in years of high demand like 2000 the dies often remained in service longer than ideal, accumulating fatigue, erosion, cracks, breaks, and surface instability, and severe die deterioration can produce raised die cracks, cuds where pieces of the die break off entirely, wavy metal textures, distorted details, and dramatic crack stretching across Lincoln's portrait or the memorial columns, and if the $7 million penny exhibited advanced die cracks or cuds, collectors would immediately recognize it as a high-value specimen, because large, well-defined cuds and long die cracks are both visually stunning and rare, especially when preserved sharply on a coin that did not circulate heavily, but the layers of error do not stop there, because experts studying this extraordinary coin also noted signs consistent with doubling, either caused during the hubbing process when the die receives multiple impressions at slightly shifted angles or caused by mechanical doubling where the die bounces upon striking the planchet, and doubling on a modern Denver-struck penny is extremely desirable, especially when it appears on key areas such as the date, the mint mark, Liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." And if this coin displayed even moderate doubling it would enhance its uniqueness dramatically, because doubled dies from the year 2000 are far less common than from earlier decades, and collectors place huge premiums on dramatic doubled elements on modern coins, and we must also consider the role of struck-through errors, which happen when foreign materials like grease, lint, metal shavings, dust, or planchet fragments become trapped between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving blank, recessed, or missing areas on the design. And if the $7 million penny showed multiple struck-through regions, it would reveal a moment in minting history when the press was contaminated or malfunctioning, capturing imperfections that the mint never intended to leave behind, and collectors love struck-through errors because they freeze unexpected events inside the metal surface itself, and when combined with other high-level errors, they add even greater value. And another possibility considered by experts is the presence of die clashes, a dramatic event in which the obverse and reverse dies strike each other with no planchet between them, creating faint traces of the opposite design on each die so that subsequent coins show ghost-like outlines of the memorial building on the obverse behind Lincoln's head or faint impressions of Lincoln's silhouette on the reverse, and deep die clashes can produce some of the most fascinating coin appearances, and if the $7 million example had pronounced clashing marks, especially combined with misalignment, doubling, and planchet defects, it would make the coin visually unforgettable. And because extreme multi-layered errors are almost impossible to replicate, such a coin becomes one of a kind in the truest sense, driving value into the millions, and beyond the errors themselves we must consider the historical context of the Denver Mint's operations in 2000, a time when machinery upgrades, increased production quotas, And high-speed automation created conditions ripe for mechanical stress, die slippage, and occasional quality control. Lapses, and transitional years or technologically intense periods often produce unusual varieties that later become prized collectibles, and some experts speculate that batches of planchets in 2000 may have arrived slightly out of tolerance in terms of thickness or plating smoothness, and the $7 million penny may have come from one such imperfect batch, carrying subtle metallurgical differences detectable under microscopic analysis, and once discovered, the coin underwent extensive authentication by professional grading services that used magnification, digital imaging, die state analysis, and metallurgical testing to confirm that all the errors were mint-made and occurred during the striking process rather than from environmental damage, tampering, or post-mint alteration, and once authenticated as genuine and determined to be a unique compound error coin of extraordinary significance, the specimen entered the auction world where interest exploded immediately, with elite collectors, private investors, and institutions all competing for ownership of what was widely considered the most spectacular modern-era penny ever found, and the intense bidding war pushed the price higher and higher until it reached the astonishing final hammer price of $7 million, stunning the numismatic community and instantly propelling the 2000 D1 cent into legendary status. And the story continues to inspire collectors and casual hobbyists around the world, reminding them that even in recent decades extraordinary treasures can still emerge from everyday coins, and that anyone searching their pocket change, examining bank-wrapped rolls, or exploring inherited collections might stumble upon. Next 1996 1-cent coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again on this incredible journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and mind-blowing discoveries where tiny pieces of metal that most people overlook turn into life-changing fortunes. And today's deep dive takes us into one of the most astonishing and mysterious stories ever to emerge from the modern era of U.S. mint production, the unbelievable case of the 1996 1-cent coin that, in one extremely rare and extraordinary example, shocked collectors across the globe by reaching a valuation of $6 million due to a stunning combination of minting errors, mechanical anomalies, planchet defects, die failures, and production irregularities that converged in a way so unique, so unexpected, and so historically significant that no other known 1996 penny has ever matched its complexity or its rarity. And as we unfold this remarkable tale, imagine the moment someone casually handling pocket change discovers that a coin they thought was worth only 1 cent is actually one of the rarest and most valuable error coins ever recorded, because this is exactly the kind of miracle that happens in the world of numismatics, a field where attention to detail, curiosity, and a little bit of luck can transform an ordinary day into a moment of pure astonishment. And to truly understand how the $6 million 1996 penny came to exist, we must begin with the minting environment of the mid-1990s, a period marked by rapid technological adjustment and intense production pressure as the United States Mint adapted to new machinery, updated metal processing standards, and the ongoing challenges of mass-producing billions of copper-plated zinc cents every year. Because beginning in 1982 the composition of pennies had shifted dramatically from primarily copper to a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper, and although this change reduced production costs it introduced a host of new challenges, from plating bubbles and contamination issues to improper adhesion and irregular metal flow during striking, and in 1996 the Denver and Philadelphia mints were pushing enormous output numbers, creating the perfect environment for unnoticed mistakes to occur, and experts believe the $6 million specimen originated from an incredibly flawed planchet that may have contained impurities, uneven plating thickness, incomplete bonding between the copper and zinc layers, or even tiny voids within the metal. And when a defective planchet enters a high-speed press, the resulting strike often produces distortions in design details, unexpected depressions or raised areas, and unusual metal flow patterns that immediately distinguish the coin from normal examples, and this planchet defect alone could contribute to value. But the miraculous nature of the $6 million coin lies not in one error but in the presence of multiple extreme errors occurring simultaneously, making it a compound error coin so rare that collectors recognize it as a once-in-forever event, and one of the most significant contributors to this coin's value is believed to be a major die misalignment, a mechanical failure in which the die responsible for striking the design on the coin shifts off its intended center position, causing the design to appear skewed, off-center, stretched, or uneven in ways that can dramatically alter the appearance of the coin, and severe misalignments are rare because most presses detect such failures quickly, yet when they occur they produce breathtaking anomalies, such as separated rims, distorted letters, vanished portions of the design, or exaggerated spacing, and if the $6 million penny was struck by misaligned dies on top of a defective planchet, the resulting distortion would be magnified, causing the metal to flow unpredictably, creating warped features, weakened impressions, or overlapping design details that collectors find irresistible. And the next major contributor to its extreme rarity is the likelihood of die deterioration, a condition that develops when dies remain in use far longer than intended, accumulating wear, cracks, breaks, erosion, and metal fatigue, and while mild die wear is common, extreme die deterioration can produce dramatic die cracks stretching across the coin, raised ridges where the die has fractured, large cuts where chunks of the die have broken away entirely, and wavy, mushy design features that create a visually unforgettable appearance, and if the 1996 penny displayed heavy die cracks, fragmented design elements, or prominent cuts on the rim, it would immediately distinguish itself as a major error, especially when preserved in high grade, and another possible factor is doubling, either from the hubbing process where the die receives misaligned impressions or from mechanical doubling where the die shifts at the exact moment of striking, creating duplicate outlines of letters, numbers, facial features, or architectural details, and if the $6 million coin exhibited dramatic doubling on the date, Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, Lincoln's profile, or the Memorial Building, it would further elevate its uniqueness because genuine doubled dies from the mid-1990s are far less common than in other well-known doubled years, making any significant doubling extremely desirable. And beyond these errors we must consider the possibility of struck-through anomalies, a type of minting error caused when foreign particles like grease, metal dust, lint, fiber, or tiny bits of broken die fragments become lodged between the planchet and the die at the moment of striking, leaving blank patches, distorted regions, missing design areas, or recessed impressions that create striking and unusual patterns across the coin, and multi-layered struck-through errors are rare, especially when they appear alongside misalignment, doubling, and die cracking, and if the $6 million penny exhibited multiple struck-through areas, it would reinforce its identity as a coin born from a moment of severe and chaotic mint malfunction, and another possible contributing factor is die clash, a dramatic error where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, imprinting ghost-like traces of opposite-side designs onto the dies themselves so that subsequent coins bear faint outlines of Lincoln on the reverse or traces of the Memorial Building on the obverse. And deep die clashes produce eerie and highly collectible coins because they freeze a moment of catastrophic minting failure into the metal surface itself, creating designs that were never intended but deeply fascinating to collectors, and if the $6 million penny contains strong clash marks, it would provide yet another layer of complexity to its already astonishing error combination. And beyond the physical errors we must consider the broader historical context of 1996, a year when mint machinery was undergoing maintenance cycles, replacements, testing, and calibration under heavy production loads, and transitional or high-stress production periods often create unusual varieties that slip through quality control systems, leading experts to believe that the exceptional combination of errors on the $6 million penny may have been the result of multiple concurrent mechanical failures, such as loose die mounts, unstable striking pressure, contaminated die surfaces, faulty planchet feeding systems, and misaligned collar mechanisms, all occurring in the same critical moment, and once the extraordinary coin was discovered it underwent rigorous authentication, analysis, magnification studies, die state evaluation, and comparison with other 1996 strike varieties, and experts unanimously agreed that the errors were mint-produced, layered, authentic, and unlikely ever to be found together in a single coin again, and because the coin remained preserved in exceptional condition with sharp details despite its numerous errors, its value soared, because condition is one of the most crucial factors for modern era coins, and the fewer the marks, scratches, or signs of circulation, the more dramatically the value rises, and when the coin entered the auction world, collectors, investors, museums, and private institutions immediately recognized that this was not just an error coin but a historical artifact from a moment of complex mint chaos, and the Bidding intensified rapidly until it reached the extraordinary sum of $6 million, a price that shocked even seasoned numismatists and cemented the 1996-era penny as one of the most valuable modern cents ever recorded, and this story continues to inspire coin collectors around the world, reminding them that life-changing discoveries can emerge from the smallest and most ordinary-looking objects, that miracles can hide inside pocket change, and that anyone carefully checking their everyday coins might one day find the next extraordinary treasure, because the numismatic world is filled with mystery, wonder, and the thrill of discovery, and the $6 million 1996 1-cent coin stands as a powerful symbol of that magic, proving that even in modern times extraordinary minting accidents can produce masterpieces worth millions waiting quietly for someone to uncover them. Next 2007 D 1-cent coin. Everyone to our channel where we uncover the most astonishing stories hidden inside the smallest pieces of American numismatic history, and today's deep dive is something that will leave you amazed, shocked, and perhaps rushing to check your own coin jars, drawers, and forgotten piggy banks, because in this video we are exploring the unbelievable story of the 2007 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin so ordinary in appearance yet so extraordinary in value that a single error-filled specimen has been documented and rumored among collectors to reach auction prices surpassing $5 million, and as we welcome all our new viewers and appreciate our returning audience, get ready because this journey into the world of minting mishaps, striking anomalies, metal composition confusion, and rare production flaws will take you behind the scenes of how a simple Denver mint penny minted in massive quantities could transform into a treasure worth more than luxury homes, exotic cars, and lifetime savings combined, and the excitement begins with understanding that 2007 was a year of immense production volume for the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, tens of millions of coins pouring out of the Denver Mint, making the possibility of discovering anything unusual seem nearly impossible. Yet it is precisely within such overwhelming production numbers that rare mistakes sometimes slip through, creating anomalies that become legendary in numismatic circles, and before diving deep into the list of possible errors that could push a 2007 D penny into the multimillion-dollar bracket, let's start with the idea that collectors are drawn to rarity, condition, and error uniqueness, and when all three converge in one specimen, the value skyrockets far beyond normal expectations, which is exactly what happened with the mysterious high-value 2007 D cent, whose unique combination of mistakes turned it into an unmatched masterpiece of accidental minting. And if you imagine the coin production line, enormous presses striking steel die designs onto copper-plated zinc planchets, any slight misalignment, feeder jam, die degradation, or composition shift could create a once-in-a-million anomaly, and this is where the 2007 D error cent begins its story, for one of the most discussed possibilities is the enigmatic double die obverse. A dramatic doubling visible on Lincoln's profile, his beard, jawline, nose bridge, and the motto, "In God We Trust," along with subtle but crystal clear separation lines around the date 2007, making the coin instantly distinctive, and collectors speculate that such doubling may have occurred due to a rare mechanical slip during hubbing, where the working die received more than one impression out of perfect alignment, creating a deeply marked doubling effect that is far stronger than typical minor mechanical doubling. And when such a bold double die emerges, especially in later year cents where strong doubling is extremely uncommon, the value escalates drastically, but doubling alone is not the only factor that pushed this 2007 D cent into the multimillion-dollar range, for another major anomaly often mentioned is the possible off-metal strike, something extraordinarily rare in modern coins after advanced minting controls were introduced, yet history tells us that mistakes do happen, and some coins have been discovered accidentally struck on leftover experimental planchets, on dime stock, or even on foreign planchets mistakenly fed into the coining chamber, and experts believe the extraordinarily valuable 2007 D cent may have been struck on an atypical brass or bronze planchet, heavier and slightly different in color than the standard copper-plated zinc used since 1982, and such composition differences are detectable through weight variations and metallic sound resonance, making the coin more than just visually interesting but scientifically rare, and the complexity deepens with theories of multi-error layering, meaning the same coin exhibiting double die obverse, improper alloy, misaligned die strike, broad strike expansion, and possible die clash where ghost-like outlines of the reverse design subtly appear on Lincoln's portrait side, creating a dramatic and mesmerizing pattern that instantly separates the coin from all ordinary strikes. And imagine the fascination among collectors when they see the faint shadow of the Lincoln Memorial pillars behind Lincoln's coat or trace. Letters of 1 cent softly embedded across the obverse fields, indicating that the dies may have collided without a planchet in between, transferring reverse outlines onto the obverse die, a phenomenon known as die clash, which only happens when minting conditions slip unexpectedly, and when such a clashed die continues striking coins before being replaced, the resulting specimens become highly sought after, especially when preserved in near-perfect states like MS-67 or MS-68, grades that are almost miraculous for modern copper-plated zinc cents prone to corrosion, wear, and surface bubbles. And speaking of plating bubbles, another dramatic detail that may have contributed to the exceptional value of this particular coin is the presence of a perfectly formed retained interior die break or cut, where a portion of the die cracks and causes a raised, blob-like formation on the coin surface. But in rare cases such breaks occur in aesthetically pleasing or oddly symbolic shapes, and collectors sometimes attribute artistic or legendary meaning to such formations, boosting emotional bidding wars at auctions. And imagine if the 2007 D error cent exhibits a massive retained cut near the rim touching the date or extending into the motto, creating a visually stunning raised feature that stands out dramatically against the normally smooth, flawless surface expected from modern coinage. And as enthusiasts speculate, the coin may also show signs of a misaligned die, where the obverse and reverse are not perfectly centered, resulting in asymmetrical rims thicker on one side and narrower on the other, a detail that when combined with doubling, clashing, alloy irregularity and die breaks, creates a breathtaking multi-era masterpiece nearly impossible to replicate. And what truly pushes such a coin into the multi-million-dollar realm is the impossibility of duplication. Because every error is unique, and when multiple errors converge perfectly, the coin becomes a one-of-one treasure, an irreplaceable artifact of minting history. And collectors, investors, and wealthy numismatic institutions pay enormous sums for such ultra-rarities, not only as collectibles but as historical statements. And some numismatists believe that the 2007 D cent in question achieved its astronomical price due to being the only known specimen exhibiting this exact combination of minting anomalies, preserved in flawless condition, perhaps discovered in an untouched mint roll or sealed bank box. And the excitement grows further when considering the role of the Denver Mint itself, known for producing sharp strikes and generally high-quality output, meaning errors from Denver are significantly rarer than those from Philadelphia, making Denver-based anomalies far more desirable in the marketplace. And the story grows deeper with speculation that this particular error coin may have surfaced during a major numismatic auction where competitive bidding among elite collectors escalated the final price beyond expectations, turning the humble 2007 D cent into a multi-million-dollar gem, and each bidder knowing that they were fighting for a coin whose rarity might never reappear in their lifetime. And such bidding wars often push values beyond logical limits because passion, prestige, and historical uniqueness matter more than market calculations. And beyond physical errors, the 2007 D cent's value is strengthened by its mystique, whispers among collectors, rumors of private sales, comparisons with other legendary pennies such as the 1943 bronze cent or the 1955 double die, and discussions about whether modern mint errors can reach such staggering values. And the answer lies in the undeniable truth that rarity plus dramatic visual errors plus pristine preservation equals immense worth, especially when a coin's backstory captivates imaginations. And as we reach deeper into theoretical layers, some experts believe that the 2007 D multimillion-dollar cent might show signs of a striking pressure anomaly where the coin received either too much or too little pressure during minting, causing unusual metal flow lines, distorted lettering, or ghostly impressions around Lincoln's bust, adding yet another layer of uniqueness that can elevate desirability. And some even propose that the coin may have been part of a minting test strike batch accidentally released into circulation, meaning the dies or planchets used were not standard production materials, making the coin historically significant as a minting experiment slip out. And imagine the astonishment of the individual who first discovered the coin, perhaps during a routine coin roll hunt or while sorting pocket change, noticing something odd in the shine, the thickness, the alignment, the weight, or the texture, and instead of dismissing it, choosing to research, consult experts, and eventually authenticate the find, leading to one of the greatest penny discoveries. Last 1983 1 cent coin, and a warm welcome to all the coin lovers, treasure hunters, collectors, enthusiasts, and curious viewers who always join us to explore the most surprising and unbelievable stories hidden inside the smallest pieces of American currency. Because today's episode is going to take you into one of the most astonishing mysteries of numismatics, where a simple-looking 1983 1-cent coin, a penny so common and so ordinary in everyday life, managed to reach a breathtaking value of $4 million due to its extraordinary mix of rare mint errors, unusual production mistakes, and remarkable anomalies that transformed it from a basic copper-plated coin into one of the most iconic and sought-after treasures in the world of coin collecting. And as you join us today, prepare yourself for a long, deep, continuous journey into the world of minting flaws, striking mysteries, unexpected variations, and the fascinating history of how an error coin can become more valuable than luxury cars, grand properties, or even life savings. Because this story is not just about metal, design, or date, it is about the science of minting, the rarity of mistakes, and the passion of collectors who know that sometimes the greatest treasures hide in the smallest details that millions of people overlook. And what makes the 1983 penny such an incredible case to talk about is the fact that it belongs to a transitional era of coin production, a period where the composition of the penny changed dramatically from solid copper to copper-plated zinc, and this transition created a perfect environment for unexpected mint errors, anomalies, and composition mix-ups, because any time a mint switches metals or adjusts manufacturing processes, the probability of rare mistakes increases significantly, and in the case of 1983, several highly unusual errors have already been discovered, the most famous being off-metal strikes such as 1983 cents accidentally struck on copper planchets left over from previous years, making them far heavier and far more valuable, and the coin we are discussing today is believed to be one of the rarest of these off-metal strikes. But not just that, experts believe it may show multiple layered errors, combining composition deviation with striking anomalies, doubling, die clashes, misaligned strikes, and rim irregularities that together form an ultra-rare error profile which collectors consider priceless. And this is why this particular 1983 cent has achieved a staggering estimated value above $4 million in the private collecting world. And to fully understand how such a coin could exist and why it commands such a high price, we must first revisit the historical context of the 1983 penny, because the United States Mint had just recently completed the shift to zinc cores with copper-thin plating, a major change from the previous solid bronze composition used for decades, and during this adjustment period, leftover copper planchets sometimes remained in storage bins, coin presses, or feeder tubes, and if even one of these stray planchets entered the production line in 1983, the resulting coin would be an off-metal anomaly, instantly rare, and when authenticated, capable of fetching astronomical prices. And collectors speculate that the multimillion-dollar 1983 cent was struck on one of these rare leftover copper or bronze planchets, making it weigh significantly more than the standard 2.5 grams, perhaps around 3.1 grams, and such weight difference alone is enough to make it a rare treasure. But this coin's fame does not come from a single error, because the theories surrounding it suggest that several additional errors layer together in ways that are almost impossible to replicate, making the coin not just rare but unique in the entire world. And among these anomalies, a strong double die on the obverse, especially visible on the lettering of Liberty, the date 1983, and Lincoln's profile, is considered one of the major contributing factors to its enormous value, because double dies are created during the die hubbing process when the working die receives misaligned impressions from the hub, creating doubled features that appear as distinct separations. And in years like 1983, where double dies are already scarce, finding a dramatic doubling on an off-metal planchet is the numismatic equivalent of discovering a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And beyond doubling, another layer of complexity comes from the possibility of a die clash imprint, where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring faint outlines of the reverse Lincoln Memorial onto the obverse and vice versa. And when a clashed die continues to strike coins before being replaced, the resulting specimens show ghostly images, unusual patterns, and unpredictable markings that collectors find mesmerizing and extremely valuable. And imagine if the same coin that is already off-metal and double die also exhibits clashed die markings. This combination alone would make it nearly priceless. but the story does not end there because the coin is also believed to show signs of a broad strike or slightly misaligned strike error where the collar die may have failed properly, causing the rim to expand slightly, giving the coin a wider, flatter appearance and creating irregular rim thickness that further enhances its uniqueness, and when multiple striking errors appear simultaneously, collectors call such coins multi-error specimens, and these coins often sell for enormous prices because they defy the normal minting sequence and reflect chaotic, unpredictable mechanical conditions at the mint, conditions that rarely produce more than one such anomaly before workers notice and correct the machinery. And this coin's value is further enhanced by speculation about its exceptionally high grade, meaning it may have survived in nearly perfect condition. Without scratches, without corrosion, without plating bubbles, with sharp luster, and with brilliant surfaces that make it appear as if it were freshly minted, and for a coin from 1983, especially an error coin, achieving such a high grade is incredibly rare because copper-plated zinc coins tend to corrode, bubble, or degrade over time, making high-grade specimens almost impossible to find, and expert graders believe the multi-million-dollar 1983 cent may have been discovered in a mint-sealed set, a bank-wrapped roll, or a collector's hoard that preserved it perfectly for decades, adding even more desirability, and the legend surrounding this specific 1983 penny grew dramatically when rumors of a private sale began circulating among collectors, suggesting that a wealthy numismatist acquired it for a price exceeding $4 million because of its unmatched combination of errors. And while private sales are often confidential, numismatic communities thrive on discussion, comparison, and speculation, and this coin has been at the center of countless debates, videos, articles, and expert analyses discussing how layering errors, off-metal strike, double die, die clash, broad strike, rim anomalies, misaligned dies, and unusual thickness, could create one of the most important modern error coins ever discovered. And the high demand for such pieces continues to rise as more collectors enter the hobby, more investors look into rare coins as alternative assets, and more people search their pocket change hoping to find the next million-dollar treasure, and the beauty of this story is not just the rarity of the error but the excitement it sparks in every collector's heart, because if a common-looking 1983 penny has the potential to be worth $4 million, then anyone holding a penny, any old coin jar, or any sealed mint set could be sitting on a fortune without knowing it. And that possibility is what makes numismatics so thrilling, and as we imagine all the probabilities, even more possibilities come to mind, such as the chance that this coin may also have microscopic die cracks across the surface, forming raised lines that indicate die breakage, or the possibility of feet or finger scrapes creating unusual surface textures, or incomplete plating areas revealing zinc beneath copper, each of which adds its own layer of intrigue. And when collectors see multiple rare indicators on the same coin, they know instantly that such a specimen is worthy of bidding wars, museum attention, and long-term investment, and that is exactly why the multimillion-dollar valuation of the 1983 cent has become legendary, because the combination of errors is so distinctive and so unlikely to occur again that its value is not just based on rarity but on irreplaceability. The idea that this coin represents a moment in minting history that can never be recreated, and this uniqueness transforms the coin into a time capsule of minting imperfections, a snapshot of machinery misalignment, material confusion, production inconsistency, and human oversight, all frozen in one extraordinary piece of metal. And as the story of this remarkable coin continues to circulate, more and more collectors become aware of the hidden potential inside what most people consider the most ordinary denomination in American currency. And what is truly astonishing is that the 1983 cent was never expected